USA.
Honestly, no disappointment. I think it's what gives you something to work for. I think it's just a little more motivation. Hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
I just try to keep her spirits. The thing she said was, hey, Coach, they woke a monster.
USA Basketball has not said anything. Nothing from the USOPC. How absolutely, utterly ridiculous is that? But you know what? We shouldn't be surprised because as we've known for years, the last amateurs left in the Olympic Games are the people running them.
Next week, the Olympic Games kick off in Paris. The WNBA season takes a pause after Wednesday this week. That'll be the final game for about a month before Team USA heads over to Paris to try to win another gold medal. Courtney Cronin, Myron Medcalf with you here on Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. So as the season is coming to the midway point, Myron, you were at the Lynx Fever game last night, a game that the Indiana Fever won 81-74. Coming down to the final moments of this, a big fourth quarter from the rookie, Caitlin Clark, who right now, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, jockeying back and forth for positioning for that Rookie of the Year honor. But obviously with the Olympics coming up, there's the question of Caitlin Clark, who we will not see in Paris, not being on the Olympic team. And I know that Cheryl Reeve kind of took issue with your question that you asked her yesterday. Yeah. So would you like to enlighten us as to what exactly went down between you and the head coach of not only the Lynx, but the head coach of Team USA?
Well, I think first thing I learned is that the Caitlin Clark stuff is crazy on both sides, right? The supporters, the haters, no one is really rational in this conversation. But obviously ESPN sent me there to cover that game. I go in the pregame media availability, and I figure, okay, this is Caitlin's first game in Minneapolis. She's playing the team led by the national team's head coach, Cheryl Reeve. And my question was actually what Caitlin Clark has to do in the future to make a national team. It wasn't about the snub this year, but I think Cheryl Reeve heard national team, and it just kind of set her off, Courtney. I didn't expect it, and I certainly haven't expected everything that's happened since then. Okay,
let's hear the exchange that took place last night. Again, this was not a question that you asked her after her team lost. This came in the pre-game media availability, which happens in the NBA and the WNBA. It is literally the perfect time to ask this question. Here's Myron yesterday setting off Cheryl Reeve.
Caitlin obviously didn't make this national team. What do you think she'll have to do in the years ahead?
I don't want to answer a national team question.
That's true. Let's figure it out.
And I'm the head coach of the national team. I'm the chair of the committee.
That's true. That's fair.
Anybody else want to venture into anything else?
Okay, so for those of you, the audio was a little tough there. So you asked this question. Her answer is, quote, why the hell would I answer a national team question? I'm wearing Lynx, and I'm the head coach of the national team, but I'm not the chair of the committee. Anybody want to venture into anything else? I don't understand how she could have seen this coming as like a gotcha moment or anything else. And this is a very straightforward question to the head coach of the national team. Wouldn't it be within her jurisdiction? She may not form the team, but she can tell you how players can get onto it or get off of it based on her experience as a head coach. I don't see what was lost in translation here with her.
Yeah, Courtney, I think that's, the responsibility of the head coach. I mean, obviously Steve Kerr's faced a lot of questions about Jaylen Brown. So, I mean, I wasn't asking the question to start, as I was told on Twitter, some mess. That's what a lot of people told me. I was trying to start some mess. No, I was actually just trying to get her take on this really unique moment. Caitlin Clark is playing in Minneapolis where she learned to love the NBA. The Minnesota Lynx was her team as a kid. She loved Maya Moore. That's her favorite player of all time. Here she is playing her first WNBA game in Minneapolis. It feels like that's a moment to say, okay, hey, we've got the national team coach. Caitlin's not on the squad, but what do you think has to happen in the future? That's all I said. But I think Cheryl Reeve just, maybe wasn't in the mood to hear that. Nafisa Collier has been hurt, the top player, MVP candidate with the Lynx. There were a ton of Iowa fans. I mean, everything about that game was Caitlin Clark. So I don't know if that's what bothered her when clearly her team has been really good and that hasn't been a bigger storyline. But I did think there was maybe a different way to answer it. But still, I still have a ton of respect for Cheryl Reeve. As she walked by me, Courtney, what you don't hear is she said, hey, I appreciate you. I've encountered Cheryl Reeve in other situations. I don't have anything against her. But I didn't think that was the way she would respond to a simple question about Caitlin's future on the national team.
I think it almost, for sure shows you what they've been dealing with behind the scenes, because it was about a month ago at the beginning of June where Team USA is formed, and we find that Caitlin Clark is not going to be a part of the group that's going over to Paris to try to win their 59 millionth gold medal for Team USA. And the discourse that created was a very toxic one for about a month, and it felt like it finally died down. And now, as the team's gearing up to go over to Paris, again, the Olympic Games start, opening ceremonies is Friday, July 26th, and then the group stage begins their play. The WNBA is in the middle of their season right now. The seventh seed, or I guess like the seventh in the standings right now, are the Indiana Fever. They've gone from a team that started, I believe it was 3-10, to frankly turning their season around in a way that I don't know we were expecting to see, from the issues with coaching to the issues with the team itself, maybe a lack of talent, maybe a disconnect. Caitlin Clark integrating herself into this group. And it's a cool story to watch her go through her rookie season and now setting herself up for the future about what she can do to eventually get onto this team. Because we know when the games are in 2028, she will be part of that group. Many of the rookies this year, whether it's Caitlin Clark, whether it's Angel Reese, whether it's Rickea Jackson, whether it's Camila Cardozo, those will be the next players to carry the torch for Team USA. I thought it was a fair question, and especially like the timing of when you asked it. I think that people need to we need to break the fourth wall here a little bit and explain that when you are a reporter and you have a question that doesn't have anything to do with the game that's being played, but maybe it's for a feature story, maybe it's for a story at a different date, maybe it's about somebody who's not playing in that game, maybe it's about something altogether different. You ask those questions during pregame, either during shoot around in the morning or during the pregame availability right before the game, which is about 90 minutes before tip-off. Like, it was literally the most appropriate time to ask it, but it feels like her answer and her bristling at it was a sign of stuff that's going on still behind the scenes with USA Basketball and their decision to leave Caitlin Clark off this roster.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Courtney, is it's not going to get better. I mean, if she doesn't want to answer those questions, what's happening next week? When they go to Paris, most of the questions initially will be about Caitlin Clark not being on that team, for her, for players. So that's why I thought it was interesting that she responded that way, because I'm not going to be the last person to ask about Caitlin Clark not being on the Olympics team.
Yeah, I can only imagine in those mixed zone media availabilities, all of the players getting stopped and being asked about Caitlin Clark. That this is something that Team USA has had to prepare for. And I remember when Christine Brennan of USA Today broke this story, one of the kind of like crazy parts in her reporting was that people on the committee that selected the members of Team USA that are now going over to Paris said that they had to take into consideration the Caitlin Clark effect in leaving her off the roster or putting her on the roster. Just because she's not there, it's not out of sight, out of mind. The amount of questions that are going to come about the Rookie of the Year favorite as of right now are only going to become magnified. And frankly, if Team USA handles these questions the way they did last night on the international stage, that doesn't exactly highlight all the good that they'll be doing in hoping to win another gold medal in Paris. And, it only gets louder. We thought we might have been able to put a pin in this after the Olympic team was formed and we moved on from that.